Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
So I recently discovered that I am an ice water ninja.
Okay. I don't know where this is going.
First off, let me tell you that
This is always my favorite part of the podcast because I literally never know what's going to happen.
I'm just teeing it up here.
Yeah.
Seeing where we go. So for the last week solid, I have been diving early morning into our pool. And it's like 47 degrees the pool. And spending 5 to 10 minutes
Yep.
in there. And I have established these new ninja-like moves
Oh, gosh.
where I'm like doing these ninja moves to like get my body like moving as I'm in the water so that I'm not just freezing to death. So I'd like to call myself an ice water ninja now. And I'm dangerous. And I should be registered as a lethal weapon.
So if by chance you're getting attacked in freezing cold water,
People could die.
like if I was getting attacked,
I would kill them
in freezing cold water,
in water.
you'd be able to jump in,
Yeah.
rescue me,
I have these power moves that I learned from Street Fighter.
and punch their lights out.
But I love it. I go into pure euphoria. There's a first moment of like as I'm going down there, and then I go and I jump in, and as I'm leaping in, I'm like, no.
Oh yeah,
That's
there's
me
a
underwater.
moment that your body goes through panic when it's that cold. You're like,
The first
"Ah!"
time I did it, I was like, am I going to pass out and just sink to the bottom of this and she's going to find me dead here? And then I swam out and I got in there, and then all of a sudden
It's a process.
What do you mean it's process?
You jump in, you feel like you're gonna die.
Yes. And then all of a sudden you give way to the moment and you begin. And then I hear Wim Hof in my head in his breathing technique.
You surrender
And he
to the
said,
numbness.
let the body do what the body does. Be in this moment.
That's so
And
true.
he's just soothing me as I'm saying it. But then all of a sudden you lose all feeling in your body. It's kind of just numb. And then euphoria sets in. And then I start cackling like a little kid. And I'm sure neighbors are like, what the hell's happening over there? It's like 7 a.m. and he's just cackling in his pool. And then all of a sudden I get out and I feel energized for the day. And I feel like I could conquer a mountain. And then all of a sudden you go into shakes, body shakes. Because your body goes trying to like warm up, and then I breathe through it, and then I settle myself, and I feel
I
like
wish you guys could have seen that. There's emotion with that.
And then I'm just like,
No, it's like a crazy wild ride.
you let go of control.
You let go of-
You
you
accept
surrender-
your circumstance
You
fully
surrender
as it
to the
is,
cold.
and you begin to breathe and
You allow
fully
yourself
be
to be
present.
numb. You
and you're
have
just
to be
like,
present.
I am here. I'm not off in my head somewhere else.
You
I am
can't
here.
be thinking about anything else because you're thinking about dying.
Yeah, you have to breathe through it.
You have to breathe through it.
Oh my gosh. And then I've had moments where I just want to start sob crying
Yeah, no, it's
because you
this
start
crazy,
accessing all kinds of emotions.
It's crazy. I always end up.
Wim Hof, you magical water genius.
Wait, are you talking about the water part or the breathing part?
Well, he does both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, he's right.
No, it's crazy. So we have a friend who has an ice bath. I can't jump into her pool because I'm allergic to it, which is a real bummer. But we have a friend who has an ice bath. It's the same concept. It's 40 degrees, I think.
It's probably about 50.
No, I think it's colder now.
No, it's 45 to 50. Somewhere in that range is where he keeps it.
Agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
Anyway, I get in. I think I'm going to die. It literally feels like I'm not going to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
Like, but you know that if you can mind over matter that.
Yeah.
And you're in it. You surrender to it. And then you're like, okay, I can do this. I'm going to make it. And then the third wave for me is some kind of euphoric emotional release. I normally start laughing unconditionally, cackling like I'm a crazy person, like a witch from the Wild West or something. I'm like,
that does happen. It's really weird.
But it feels like a crazy emotional release.
Yeah. And then the rest of the day, I'm just like, I want to go back in. I want to go back in until I have to go back in.
And then you hate it in the morning again.
Yeah. But
like,
I'm getting better. I'm liking it. So with that said, how does that segue into our podcast?
No idea.
It doesn't. But it's a fun story.
It is. It's for anybody out there. You what is it called? Ice baths or cold plunging or
cold plunging.
Cold plunging. You can look off Wim Hof. Don't kill yourselves.
Yeah.
There's like, you have to care about how long you're in a certain amount of temperature. So like I can't do more than 5 minutes in 40 degrees because it literally like you can get
or 50 if that's what it actually was.
You can get hypothermia if you chill your internal core too much.
Yeah.
So don't just go jump into cold water and stay as long as you can.
Yeah, I didn't recommend any of it. So your death is on your hands.
Yep.
Anyways, today, here we go.
And every time I do it, it takes me like a 30-minute hot shower.
We're going to have a dialogue about codependency and independence, but we're going to have it in a very unique manner.
Yeah. One of the things that I've learned is all emotional health can be related back to God. Okay, I like to get this question all the time. People are like, so do you believe that you need God to get emotionally healthy or whole? And I'm like, that's a different question than how I'd ever frame it.
Yeah.
Because how I would frame it is that God is involved in all things that are truth and healing.
Yeah.
Like he is
1,000%.
healing.
Everything
he
that
is the
leading
person
you
of truth, and he is the person of healing. If you are getting to more truth, now you can do a lot of healing modalities and not encounter actual truth.
Right.
I'm sure it's possible.
Maybe.
I mean, like
know.
cults do that sometimes.
But do they get to healing? No, they don't.
No.
They don't get to love. They don't get to peace. They don't get to joy.
Yeah.
Like anything that is the nature of love, joy, peace,
God's
kindness,
in it.
Patience.
He's involved. You can't separate it. So,
no, you can't.
But that isn't really what we're talking about today either.
It's not. But
I just wanted to throw it out there because it's a funny question to me. I'm like, God is the author. He created psychology.
Yeah.
He also created
health, wholeness, like anything that is whole is God.
Supernatural love, like and you'll find out. The more I've studied trauma and the more I've studied the brain, the more I've studied how humans process pain, really attunement and connection is what heals. That's why it's called the connected life.
It is actually relationship. And we were designed in and through relationship by our creator. And when there's a restoration back to relationship,
it brings healing.
Yeah.
But you can also get back to that
design.
relationship through healing in very many ways.
I think a lot of times people may not acknowledge like this is God because they might not have language for it, or they might call God by a different name, but they're going, I just know that I'm feeling this abundant life that's happening inside of it. Fun little rabbit trail you had there.
What I was actually trying to say is that everything I learn in emotional health, I always apply to my relationship with God.
Right.
So if I'm learning about my attachment style with people, I think what is my attachment style with God? Like if I'm learning about how codependent I am with people, I'm thinking about how that relates to my relationship with God.
The way that we're relating to the world around us is the way that we'll relate to God often.
Especially subconsciously.
Yeah, in an unconscious manner. So a lot of times I was thinking about the idea of this because I was like, something flashed in my head about religion. And how a lot of people have this codependency approach to God inside of religion. Like, I need to do everything for you, and I need to make sure you're happy and that you're never angry and that you're never frustrated. And I know that, my actions will dictate your full well-being. And I'm like, oh, that just sounds like they have a lot of codependency in their life, and now they've thrown it on the face of God. Like, God is this angry friend of theirs that is like, I need you to be better so I can be happy. Get yourself better. As if unconditional love, which God at God's source is love, is the essence of love, isn't already complete in love. Like as if you can drain God of love in some way by your actions. And he's just, I can't take it. That one pissed me off today.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting concept because, okay, so again, conceptually, we often subconsciously relate to God how we related to our parents.
Right.
We're always, our internal system is always learning how we're relating to the people around us, and it is mirroring that for God, which it can create chaos. That's why you can have a pastor that can help create a healthy view of God or can destroy your view of God. You can have parents that help create a healthy view of God and help destroy.
Coaches,
Yes. So it's important to know that subconsciously, whatever we're learning about relationship, we're subconsciously imagining about our relationship with God. And so, like, for example, a lot of us grow up with parents who are at the edge of their capacity. And I get it. I'm an adult and I don't have kids. And I'm at the edge of my capacity a lot.
I saw a woman in the store today, and she was like, "You need to stop it right now," at her kid. And I was like, yeah.
I get that.
I get that.
Totally. Yeah. It's a very real thing. Most parents are at capacity. There's stressful things that every parent is trying to figure out. We're all having to figure out money, career, love, relationships, passion, fulfillment. What are we made for? Like, we have a lot of things we're trying to understand while also taking care of humans that want to take our entire beings.
Yeah.
And so it's a very unique scenario.
Steal our souls right through our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. And inside of this, I mean, as we were diving into the idea of specifically codependency versus independence, I think a lot of times about how people will come into my office and they'll have very strong swinging emotions like God doesn't love me, God doesn't care about me, God is angry at me, right? And you're having that conversation about the authority in our lives and our childhoods. But I thought specifically about the nature of codependency. And like, if I'm a codependent person, how does that pain wire itself inside of my daily life? And then how does that show up in this pain that I'm experiencing with God?
Yeah.
And I think with a lot of specifically codependent people, they're terrified of really making their own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And they're consistently thinking, how is someone going to respond to me? Like, how are my friends going to respond to me? How are my teachers going to respond to me? What are they going to think about me? And it seems that a lot of times inside of that codependent people are very paralyzed in their process of life. And I think about that going over into our relationship with God. And I think, how many times have I heard people that are absolutely positively paralyzed to make any decision whatsoever? And they're like, I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to live this life. And I think about some of the people on the opposite end of the spectrum, where they've grown up in a very controlling environment, and they're like, I don't care for that. I don't want it. And I especially don't want anything to do with some sort of controlling creator that's just trying to dominate my life. And so they go into this deep independence that they live out of. And they're like, I don't care. I don't want to participate. I don't want any input inside of my world from a creator. My creator's only here to steal from me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is so much of how we react and respond to authority is from our parents. And so many times we put that on God. And there's so many, I wish I would have understood that, because there was times where I judged myself as rebellious with God, but really it was me being scared of not having autonomy, because in my family, I didn't have autonomy. My mom like consumed my life.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I want to be able to make some of my own choices. And I want to, like, there was this real, and I thought it was very rebellious. But now I look back, like, I was never trying to rebel. I just also wanted to have
free will.
Free will.
A sense of autonomy is really a sense of free will, which is very interesting, because all humans were designed with the concept of free will. Love can't exist without free will. And we're all actually wanting to work our way back to free will. Sometimes we're terrified of it, because we're terrified of the crazy stuff that we might do that might cause messes and hurt people and cause us to be rejected. And sometimes
we give it up. We pretend we don't have it. We're just a victim to whatever's happening around us. And
so free will is something that we are constantly trying to exercise our soul back to, and we don't know how to do it in a healthy way, especially if there's some sense of looming punishment, or a sense of, I'd say, just a sense of looming punishment that's waiting to just come down and just swallow us alive if we make make a mess inside of that free will.
Oh, yeah.
And then again, on the other side of the coin is I don't care at all whatsoever because I don't know how to deal with like maybe my perceptions of what love is and stuff like that. So I just make so much crazy, destructive, independent decisions just to kind of prove like, hey, I'm free and nothing bad can happen to me or whatever.
Yeah.
But oftentimes all of it is just a reaction, right? And it's a reaction to really poor perspective.
Yeah. It's, you know, I'm thinking about my parents. The idea like with my mom was that I could destroy her world.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of kids have this, like if you do something wrong and your parents are already at the edge of their capacity, then they break. If you do a behavior, if you accidentally knock that glass over and they're already at the edge of their capacity, they're going to lose their mind over that glass. And I get it. I am that person. There are the days when I don't even have a kid. I am that person.
You are that person.
But I'm also the person who can be at the edge of my capacity and a glass could fall and break and it could knock me over.
Yeah.
Where I'm screaming and cussing and there's no one to even blame for it except me. So I think like there's not any shame for parents listening to this, but the idea is when we grow up believing that if we do a small behavior, it can destroy their ability to love us. It can just, or they'll get really angry or it'll be too much for them. And that's something that most kids are experiencing day to day. They do something that's too much for their parents. Because just if you think about it by nature, kids are like, mom, 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 mom. Like just that alone. But the concept is, of course, parents get snappy sometimes and get frustrated and whatever. It's just that kids take that as personal. And then we subconsciously imagine that that's how God is. That we could do one small mistake and he'd get really frustrated with us. That we could be trying our best and accidentally do something and he could freak out and not see our intentions. And that's the problem is most parents are too stressed to see their kids' intentions. Mm-hmm. And so we believe God doesn't see that our intentions are good.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting because I had an older woman once ask me about like, how do you reconcile the goodness of God that you see in, say, the New Testament, like Christian God and this version of this one that's all nice here. And then this other one in the Old Testament that seemed to send people traipsing across lands and cutting off foreskins. One of the things that I said is I was like, well, I think that you're looking at this Old Testament figure. You have like first off, a bipolar God in your head. God is either super happy and pleased or just delivering destruction everywhere and exacting revenge for all of his bad feelings he's having. And I said, you know, I'd say that probably was part of your childhood. But I said, when I look at the history of humanity, you know, I think that God crawls into our boxes and he begins to speak to us on our terms and our cultural experiences. And so you'll see a lot of things that I think about the idea of Abraham and Isaac. And as the story goes, Abraham was asked to sacrifice his kid on the altar. And we're like, what kind of crazy God would ask you to kill your kid? And then there's this war inside of you trying to figure out like, is he really good? Would a God really ask you to do that? And when you think about the idea of that time, you know, Abraham goes traipsing off to go throw his kid up there and like hack his head off and be like, all right, here we go. Sacrifice time.
Yeah.
And then God says, stop, and then gives a provision, right? And we all think like, that was super nice of him to not make him kill his son.
Oh my gosh.
But
can you believe we tell kids these stories like they're not going to affect
I was
them?
I was a little kid in Sunday school, and they're like, and Daddy didn't kill his kid. And you're like,
oh my gosh. It's a crazy.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
But the idea, even in a scenario like that, I look at it and I go, that was the culture of the times. Everyone was sacrificing.
Child sacrifice.
Child sacrifice was a part of the culture, and it was normal inside of those type of pagan traditions. And so God goes to have a conversation with Abraham where he's like, kill your kid. He's like, oh, of course, we all kill our kids, right? Here he is. Let me throw him up there.
Justin.
We appease our gods.
That's true.
You know, but then all of a sudden he's like, hey, now stop.
Like, that's not how I do
That's not
things.
how I do things. Here's a provision over here. Let's start doing this a little bit different. I'm going to give you an animal to sacrifice to appease your sense of trying to get to me by having to do something sacrificial and prove yourself and trying to make me happy. Because humanity's concept is God is mad and I need to do something to get to God and make God really happy because he's going to punish me in a terrible way. And he's like, all right, I'll have that conversation with you step by step, increment by increment, not just through in one moment, but throughout decades and hundreds of years, right? And centuries, where he's like, I want all of humanity to have this concept. I'm going to speak to humanity in their terms until they get the idea that I'm actually a really good dad and they don't have to perform or sacrifice to get to me. And I'll create a provision for the parts of your souls that need a sacrifice in order for you to get to me.
Well, I think the interesting thing, and me and you have slightly different theology in how we approach things, which I enjoy. Yeah. I like that. One of the things that I love is that Jesus he came to show us the Father. Over and over and over again.
That. Yeah.
That's what over and over again, the Bible says, like, that Jesus came. I don't do what I do. I do what the Father is doing.
If you've seen me, you've seen the Father.
Yes. There's so many verses that point to that. And so you look at Jesus, who is, who's not removing love because he's moody one day.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see.
He's not bringing down fire on everybody.
No. In fact, when the disciples are much more like what I imagine God would be like. When I grew up, my bad theology, the disciples, because sometimes they were super excited about like doing miracles. And then other times they're like, let's call down fire on these people, or like, they're preaching and it's not in your name. What do you want to do? Like, they're like very like retribution.
He's like, you need to chill out now.
But the disciples had that emotional swing. And I think for me, one of the things is, if you grow up around parents who have mood swings, which is probably 90% of us had some parent who had mood swings, unless you had the parents that were numb, you know, and then you have a different kind of view that God isn't emotional. But the concept is, so then we start thinking God is just like back and forth and wishy-washy and you don't know.
Old wishy-washy God.
But Jesus was very consistent. He was consistently mischievous. That's for sure.
He was definitely breaking the rules of the day.
And he was consistently caring about humans.
Right.
Over and over and over again. He cares more about humans
to a higher law,
systems.
an eternal law, versus an earthly law that said, well, cast those guys out. They're dirty, unclean lepers. Kick them to the curb. And he's like, nah, I'm going to go touch them and heal them. No big deal. Yes.
And this is the thing that's so radical about God, Jesus, who's representing the Father, is Jesus came and broke all of their, like, every law. When you actually look at it, the reason obviously you're an 8, but like, and me too, I love a good rule breaker. That's why I married you. But you look at every single like the miracles, why they started wanting to kill him was because he was healing on the Sabbath. Like the things that really were poking there, or he was doing miracles on the Sabbath.
Yeah, I mean, he's violating their cultural rules.
Yeah.
And also in it, he's just definitely gaining momentum in favor with everybody. They're like, it's Jesus. Maybe he's going to lead us out of this crappy situation. And they're like, whoa, this guy's
troublemaker.
He's a troublemaker. We're going to lose control over everybody. And we need to be high and mighty and better than everyone. And we need to make sure that they know that.
Yeah. Jesus came. He's like, the first will be last. Blessed are the poor and the weak. And he's just very, he came and changed the whole system of hierarchy.
Turns it upside down.
The whole system of religious, like some people are better than other people. He flips the whole system. But so when I think about it, I'm like, and then he dies so that there would never, ever be a separation that we would need to ever experience. Like
try to atone for.
Yeah, he made it so that for all of eternity, we would get to have God with us, in the sense that now we all get to experience him within our own lives. all hearing him, seeing him, knowing him, connecting to him. It's a very now, obviously in the Old Testament, he was connecting and empowering and speaking to people then also.
I think about the craziest things where there are moments where he's like, hey, show me one really good person, just one in all the land, and I'll spare all this. Like, I'm looking to
wasn't it 10?
I think it all got all the way down
I
can't remember what the number was. Was it 10? Then it got down to give me one. Give me one beside yourself.
I can't remember.
Uh-huh.
That's why dyslexia is hard for this preacher.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But there's this sense of the Father and our Creator is doing everything on his behalf to try and develop a relationship with his creation, with each and every child.
Which is why he wasn't the one that said, Israel said they didn't want a king. Or they wanted a king.
Yeah, Israel said, we want a king. He's like, you don't need one.
A guy instead of having God be our king. Yeah. And it was that thing of, I get it.
We don't know how to manage our own free will. Please make somebody be our taskmaster.
Yeah, make some rules.
And he's like, really? Don't you just want to live with your free will? Not a chance. Hand it over. Make someone rule over me. But the interesting thing as you're dialoguing about this and kind of where this was going was I'll have people, like when we have a conversation like this, how do I know what a good God is, or a good dad is, or a good creator is? Like, they don't know. Like, people don't know. Like, what is my example? And I think that you answered it inside of that. That was something for me in my own personal journey as I started investigating, for me, the New Testament. And I'm like, okay, if Jesus says, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, and he's following, only responding the way he sees the Father respond and act, I'm like, there's something about his nature that's going to rewrite my entire way that I relate to the Father. Mm-hmm. And so I watched it. I know that I grew up in an institutional system that was like, the broken theology was like, there's this really angry, pissed off father who went and beat the shit out of his son and was like, take that. Okay, now I can love you all. I got my anger out on him.
Oh yeah.
Right. And there was that. I'm like, that just doesn't make sense that he just had to exact his revenge on one singular person. The one he loved the most, he would beat the most. I'm like, that sounds like an abusive relationship. Why would you be in that relationship, Jesus?
Totally.
Get out of
it. Save yourself.
Until I realized that, humanity put him on that cross, and humanity in our destructive nature, in our fear of being loved, in our hatred for ourselves and all that is good, sits and takes it out on this perfect, spotless, wonderful human being. And he goes, all right, just accept that I took it all. I took your deepest broken messiness, destructive nature, and you're forgiven and you're loved and chosen, and just receive this.
Well, I one of the pictures of theology I like best is actually from the Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh yeah.
He was a fascinating theologian, C.S. Lewis. And I really enjoy, he didn't have a punitive version of father to son. He
didn't have punitive theology.
So if you look at when Aslan chooses to die, he chooses to die.
Right.
Because of the law, when Peter betrayed Aslan and the king, it was like the law of the land was that something had to
be shed
to make it right. But it wasn't that Aslan had a dad in heaven that hated Peter. And so Aslan had to die to convince his dad to love Peter. Like that is the whole concept of what a lot of people do in theology is they say that God is an angry father. Jesus stands in his way. It's like having an abusive
good hit.
Yeah,
Dad's going to slap all of us. He's like, I'll take the slap as he jumps in its way.
Yeah. And then, now Dad's magically happy with us.
Yeah. He's all good now.
Only if he sees Jesus. Only if he sees us through Jesus.
That's true.
If he doesn't see us through Jesus, then it's a mess.
Yeah. I remember that. I grew up in that broken theology that was like, he sees you as good now because he can only see Jesus. I'm like, well, that doesn't make me any less of a piece of shit. It just means Jesus is standing between me and him, right? It's like there's apparently nothing enjoyable about me under these conditions.
Yeah. Instead of it being like, there is we stepped out of relationship when we ate from the tree of good and evil. We stepped into relationship with judgment. Like there was a choice of choosing judgment. And then you have this thing where Jesus comes in to create where we can have access on such a magnificent level to the voice of truth, louder than the voice of judgment, louder than and we have the ability to connect. And so just the idea of like Aslan chose to wrong a right, like to right a wrong.
To right a wrong.
He chose to right the wrong thing so that all of them could live.
Yeah, he stands up. He's like, I'm going to repair this.
I'm going to repair this according
to your terms here. I'm going to repair all of this.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I think in the movie, it's like according to the laws of deep magic is what it says. But it's a beautiful story. And it really is, I mean, if we're going to be talking about theology, we need to actually address this. If you go to the cross, you have to address Psalms 22. And this is something that they do not teach enough, which is very frustrating for me. So it says Jesus says, my God, why have you forsaken me? And so this is the verse that goes along with punitive theology, which is saying like, you see, God abandoned him because God can't look at sin. And
because it's so disgusting. He couldn't look at it.
Yeah. And so, that's not actually, my God, why have you forsaken me is the first line of Psalms 22. And back in that context, you could say the first line of a psalm and someone would know you were referencing that whole psalm. That was a way to actually...
Yeah, instead of screaming, Psalm 22, everybody!
Check it out! He yells, my God, why have you forsaken me? And for those who have ears, let them hear. Even the disciples, when they talk about later after the events that they recognized all the prophetic things that they'd missed, I'm sure they caught that. But Psalms 22 is the prophetic declaration that David gave of what the cross was going to be like. So I'm going to actually just read it for a second.
Oh, I like that.
Psalms 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? So I want you guys to imagine this is a prophetic story of what the cross is going to be. My God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. By night, I find no rest. Yet you are enthroned as the Holy One. You are the one Israel praises. In you, our ancestors put their trust. They trusted and you delivered them. They cried out and were saved. In you, they trusted and were not put to shame. I wonder even if he is even reminding his own soul in this moment. But I am a worm and not a man, scorned by everyone, despised by all people. All who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. He trusts in the Lord, they say. Let the Lord rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him. Which is literally what everybody is chanting. Like, oh, if you're the Son of God, just call for the angels to come get you off of
this. Do
this.
something about it, guy.
Yet you brought me out of the womb. Think about this as Jesus saying this to God. You made me trust in you, even at my mother's breast. From birth, I was cast on you. From my mother's womb, you have been my God. It's like going back. Do not be far from me, for trouble is near and there's no one to help. Many bulls surround me. Strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. Roaring lions that tear their prey open their mouths wide against me. I'm poured out like water, which is a reference to the spear in his side where water flowed out, blood and water flowed out. And all my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax. It is melted within me, which is exactly what they say happened. My mouth is dried up like potsherd, and my tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth, which is like why they offer him the vinegar. So all of this is literally line by line,
the experience that is happening.
You lay me in the dust of death. Dogs surround me. A pack of villains encircles me. They pierce my hands and my feet. All my bones are on display. People stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. So it's literally painting this picture. His bones are on display. He has nothing to hide. He can't protect himself. He's
casting
circled
lots for his
around
garments.
them. Yes. But you, Lord, do not be far from me. You are my strength. Come quickly to help me. Deliver me from the sword, my precious life from the power of the dogs. Rescue me from the mouth of lions. Save me from the horns of the wild oxen. I will declare your name to my people. In the assembly, I will praise you. You who fear the Lord, praise him. All you descendants of Jacob, honor him. Revere him, all you descendants of Israel. For he has not despised or scorned the suffering of the afflicted one. He has not hidden his face from him, but has listened to his cry for help. So I just want to repeat this because this is such a powerful.
Yeah, the truth of
For he has not despised or scorned the suffering of the afflicted one. He's literally talking about himself.
Yeah.
He's literally saying he has not hidden his face from him, but has listened to his cry for help. So he's actually describing that the Father's nature while he's on the cross is that he is listening and that he has not despised or scorned what is happening to Jesus. He's not hiding his face from him, but he is listening to his cries for help. Like it's painting a picture of what the Father is feeling towards him in this moment. And we all take this verse to mean something entirely different, that God literally abandoned Jesus in the time of his greatest pain, in the time of him feeling the weight of the sin of the world, and the time. And I'm like, that is not what he's communicating. And then it goes to this, which I think is literally him now declaring what comes out of the cross. From you comes the theme of my praise in the great assembly. Before those who fear you, I will fulfill my vows. The poor will eat and be satisfied. Those who seek the Lord will praise him. May your hearts live forever. He's literally saying this is now what happens because of this moment. All the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord. All the families of the nations will bow down before him, for dominion belongs to the Lord, and he rules over the nations, which is literally him declaring the kingship of God from this moment in the cross. All the rich of the earth will feast and worship. All who go down to the dust will kneel before him. Those who cannot keep themselves alive, posterity will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord. They will proclaim his righteousness, declaring to a people yet unborn, he has done it. Which is such a powerful, this is what the cross did. He has done it. He is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. He is with me now forever. He has declared victory. The families, all of us will be able to turn. All the ends of the earth will remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nations will bow down before him, for dominion belongs to him. It's this beautiful thing of describing this crazy choice that Jesus makes to go on the cross and to choose this place of being mocked, of literally being surrounded and broken on our behalf. But he knows, and he's declaring, God will not leave me in this.
He's in this with
me. He's
me.
in this with me. And from this, the whole story changes. From here on out, every generation will know he has done it. Like, it's so freaking powerful when you read it that way. And then you're like, at most, what he's experiencing is the experience of humanity.
Yeah.
My God, why have you forsaken me? Not because God did forsake him, but because that is humanity's deepest cry.
Ache inside
I am
of us.
alone. Where are you? And he is a God who has stepped into our shoes and understands that aloneness. But inside of our aloneness, he came to actually say, yet even then, I will never turn my face from the suffering one, from the one in affliction. I will listen to you there.
Preach it, girl. I just got a picture of you back up on that stage going for it. It's unbelievably powerful when you understand it from that perspective, that something that was written so long before he was ever there says, hey, we're about to have a conversation about what's going to happen. And Jesus goes, yeah, let's talk about what's happening right now. In one simple statement, he reflects so that everyone could go return back to that and think about the reality of, hey, humanity really believes you've abandoned me, but actually you haven't abandoned me. You're a really good dad who's climbed in the midst of our suffering, and you're not turning away because of our messiness, because of our brokenness.
Nope.
You are showing up right there inside of that to bring comfort to the most broken states of our being.
Oh, yeah. I love this too.
The promise is that there's life on the other side of it, where we're in the darkest parts of our humanity. He said, no, but there's life. There's a resurrected life. Like it's mind blowing when you think about the analogy of a resurrected king that comes back on the other side of that much destruction and says, no, actually, every part of you that feels dead inside, I have the power to resurrect and give life to.
Yes. And then it says they will proclaim his righteousness, declaring to people yet unborn. It's literally like from here on out, there will be a declaration that God has done it. He's made a way for, okay, so obviously we're getting off topic, but the point is...
Well, it's painting an enormous picture of a good father who's involved in the fullness of our story.
Who wasn't angry at Jesus, didn't turn his back on Jesus. Because how are we supposed to believe that if God would turn his back on Jesus in his greatest crisis, that he's not going to
just abandon all of us?
Yeah, no, it literally says, I'm convinced that nothing can separate me from the love of God, neither height nor depth, heaven or hell. And then you have Psalms that says, if I go up into the heavens, there you are with me. If I go down into the depths of hell, there you are with me. I cannot get away from your love. It is a father who is relentless. Yeah. And I'm not going into theology about afterlife in bringing up those. Read Psalms 139 and read Romans 8. It's just saying that there is not a way for us to separate and escape the love of God. He did it, and the Father wasn't upset at Jesus, and he sent Jesus because we were not getting an accurate view of him.
Yeah, and inside of the inaccurate view, there's this utter abandonment and torment that we live out of that perpetuates our destruction. And he's going, hey, I'm going to heal the issue of abandonment inside of your soul. That's what I'm after. If I can heal the issue of abandonment inside of you, all the destruction just disappears.
Yes.
Because you're not bastard children anymore.
No, you're mine.
You're mine. And it wasn't that we were born not gods. We were always gods. It's that humanity said, I'm not anybody's.
Well, the tree of judgment created a very as soon as we could judge ourselves,
we created this disconnection.
It's literally what Adam and Eve did when they ate from the tree of good and evil. When God came back walking the same way that he did the entire time.
Yeah.
There wasn't a difference. He didn't respond differently. Yeah. It's that they went and hid. They covered themselves. They broke that connection because they thought they were bad.
In their free will, they broke that connection.
Yes.
It's interesting because the hand of a connection never got removed.
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
There's a father that's holding on to a kid's hand. And the kid's like, no, let me go. Let me go. And then just rips away and pulls away. I was like, no. And then dad's like, okay, hey kiddo, come grab my hand. Let's reconnect here. He's like, no, I'm not gonna. And then the kid ends up getting in a bunch of trouble and pain and.
Yeah. And so while we're at it, most people have a view that God was angry and that's why he kicked them out of the garden because he was pissed because they didn't do it. But actually if you read, okay, I can't go into the entire theology around this, but if you read this, he does not punish. He gives them a promise before he punishes them. He doesn't punish them.
He doesn't punish them.
He tells them the consequences, the natural consequences.
The natural repercussions of you choosing to operate in your free will in this way is that this will be the byproduct of your experience.
But before he does that, he promises them. He starts with calling Eve, like, you will now be Eve. You will become the mother of all living. And then he talks to the woman and about how from her will be born someone who will crush the serpent's head. It wasn't just a punishment. It was a promise that there was redemption coming from her very body. Redemption would come, that she would birth someone who would birth someone who would birth someone who would birth someone that would be the redemption of their story. He started there. And then when he told them to leave the garden, it was because there was the tree of life in the garden.
And he said that you might not eat from this tree and stay this way forever.
Yes.
He was wanting
to protect
I actually
them.
Don't want you guys to end up in a worse off scenario where you're forever living like this. So I'm going to protect you. I'm going to love you. I'm not here to punish you.
Yeah, they'd eaten
I
from
want to resolve what's just happened.
The tree of judgment. If they ate from the tree of life while they had the tree of judgment, they'd be miserable forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Trapped trapped living a life of judgment.
Yes.
An eternal life of judgment.
So he brought them out.
No, I don't want you.
And he made a way to get us out of our own judgment, to reconcile us into relationship, to create a pathway where we would never feel alone again.
When the reason that this really relates is it's not actually a bunny trail that we're going on. It's actually a picture of the Father, that because there are people who are listening that are going, I don't know how to relate to God because I can't see God correctly.
Yeah.
I have terrible theology or terrible experiences that shined a light on what God was from religious backgrounds and things like that. And it's not until we actually go, oh, there's a dad that radically fights in a nurturing manner on our behalf, that's willing to do anything that he can do to get to us, that starts going, wow, maybe I don't have to be scared anymore. Maybe I don't have to run away in independence anymore. Maybe I don't have to just work day and night trying to appease and please and live in this tormenting fear of trying to keep someone satisfied. But he actually loves me and he's not bipolar.
Well, and it's an interesting thing because it goes into then like the commandments God gave us were to protect our life.
Right.
It wasn't, I want to make rules,
a bunch of rules
just to see if you can follow them.
Yeah.
It was.
You been good over there following the rules?
Yeah. It was never about giving us a test to see how committed we were.
He's like, hey, I'm going to hand you a few things that if you can just follow these couple simple steps, you're going to keep from completely, utterly destroying each other and yourselves.
Yeah. Like don't murder each other. Don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, don't commit adultery. All of those things literally hurt our souls.
He's just throwing rules at us.
But it's actually...
Why can't I cheat and lie? Feels great.
Well, the reason I'm bringing that up is because we think God is angry at us when we don't follow the rules.
And he's like, this wasn't for me. This is for your well-being.
I want to create a place where people are safe and where love exists and where you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting others. And so here are some ways to do that.
And he comes to them and he goes, I'm going to give you some very basic stuff, kids. Like, I'm not even going to try and make this too complicated. These 10 commandments right here.
Let's start here.
Let's just start here. If you can just handle 10 things, you're going to see a picture of love and care and connection. And I'll start having conversations around those 10 things that will heal and enlighten your heart. But I'm very well aware that you're not going to be able to follow really any of them. And I'm gonna work with you on it.
Yeah.
Because until you can reconnect back to me,
yes,
you'll keep in your nature of destruction.
Yes. And this is why it's so incredible. Jesus came and died so that we could have new life. There's a new way that we could see ourselves, new eyes to see what God made in us.
You know, it's interesting because when we've talked on here about practical journey of forgiving yourself and forgiving others, like that is the actual nature of God, is the simplicity of, he's like, no, actually forgiveness restores you to love.
Yeah.
It heals your soul that's in the torment of the anger, the hatred, the pain. Like, here, I'm inviting you into forgiveness.
I know. And then you think about the cross as this beautiful symbol of forgiveness, even of most, like Jesus is on the cross and he's saying, forgive them for they know not what they do. Like he's literally having empathy for the people who are actually killing him.
And that's a father's nature.
It's the father's nature.
Says, I have empathy for you when you come and even come to destroy me.
Yeah. I still have empathy. Jesus is praying for them. And it's this idea of a God who so loves his kids, who so wants to like, come be forgiven. Like I'm going to crawl into, Paul Young always says this, that Jesus chose the cross, which was the most destructive, ugly thing humans could do to each other at that time, like a symbol of such a destructive, ugly thing. And Jesus was like, I'm going to redeem even the ugliest human thing. That when you come up with these ideas,
I will crawl up on that cross.
I'll crawl into your ugly ideas that bring destruction, and I will bring healing and wholeness.
Oh, that's so powerful.
and I will bring forgiveness. And so now it's a beacon. The cross is now a beacon of forgiveness. It's like Moses, back in the Old Testament, there was venomous snakes that were biting, and God tells Moses to put up a bronze snake on a pole, and anyone who's bitten by a snake can look to that and be healed immediately. And that's literally, I mean, the Bible uses it as an example. That is what Jesus on the cross was, that anyone could look to that, to that moment, to that image, to that story. Anyone could look to that and be healed and forgiven and have that connection back to themselves, back to their creator, back to the people around them. There's so many people I know that that invitation back to relationship actually overflows onto their other relationships.
Yeah.
And it creates restoration. So it's just the concept of God was always wanting to create a beacon of hope that could pull people into forgiveness. It doesn't matter what you've done, how bad you've been, what kinds of chaos you've chosen, that there is somebody that doesn't want to leave you, who wants to be with you, that you don't have to try to please. You don't have to try to make them happy. They are already they're already good. You know, like they're like a healthy marriage where like they're getting their needs met. They all love each other. Like the Trinity, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, they all love each other. Like they don't need us to make them happy.
Yeah.
They're already fulfilled, and they brought us to be a part of their love.
Yeah. So good. It's so good. So to wrap that all up today.
That's not even what I thought we were talking about today.
I know, but
codependency, independency. We'll maybe do that again. Yeah,
but I think that it was a valuable part of it, because again, it goes back to how we're relating inside of our own life. We have to begin to ask, what is the nature of how I'm relating to the world around me? Am I someone who's operating out of codependence or independence? And what does that say about how I'm relating to my creator? And is that causing a lot of pain? And am I seeing myself and my God rightly? Or am I seeing a loving father who's nurturing or who's angry? And how is suffering being perpetuated inside of my life if I'm not getting it right, if I'm not seeing it properly? How much am I exacerbating my own suffering inside of my soul because I'm not willing to go, I'm gonna risk that he's a really good dad, and I'm gonna risk believing that I'm forgiven and that he's in my story as fully and willing to participate in the healing process as much as I'm willing to say yes and allow him to participate. Yeah. I don't necessarily fully agree with this book of theology that I'm going to. I don't necessarily fully disagree with it either, but I think it's a good book to read, Cosmos Reborn. If you are out there listening and you're like, I don't even believe what they're saying. Yeah. It's a good theological book to read. It gave me so much to chew on. I can't think of one person who has my exact theology because there's so much. I think it's all going to make sense in heaven. Yeah. There's a lot of nuance to God.
There's so much nuance.
In any specific camp of perspective. I'm just a learner.
Yeah, we're all learning.
It is all on a journey of growth and development. So, hey, by the way, a little quick turn of events in this conversation. Go to Justin and Abi, that's abi.com, right? And if you want, we want to hear your ideas that you have for the podcast. Go to our Connected Life page and you can type in ideas that you have. And if we pick your idea, we'll put your name on the podcast and give you a shout out, maybe something else, who knows. And also, if you're getting stuff out of these podcasts, we just ask that you rate, review, and subscribe and share, but really reviews on any of the platforms that you have. People like hit us up all the time. They're like, I decided to listen to your podcast because I saw so many ratings and reviews and so many good ratings.
Or somebody posted it on their Instagram. And so I listened.
And so it gets the message of healing and out there and helps people. And last but not least, Living Fully Live is going to start up pre-sales for that in January. And we're going to give more information about that as it comes out. Yeah, it's good for people to know that all of the programs we do are trying to integrate theology and emotional health into a place where people can come alive the most. Yeah, and find wholeness inside of it. So, and it officially will be starting in March. So with all that said, I loved watching you preach today, babe. Way to get up there. What a surprise. You just throw some cheers into this editing. Ooh. Crowd cheering. Rah! Preach it. Amen. All right. Amen.
Bye.